Weapons, callback cards, and self-destructive minions are venturing forth into Uldum, and today we get to review them.
Who's up for an adventure?
For anyone who hasn't seen the other card reviews, let's just give a heads up that we do not use the normal 5-star rating for these reviews. Rather, we rate them based on whether or not they would fit into a current meta deck, so meta now, are likely to work in a meta deck when the expansion comes out, or meta later, and most importantly, if they enable or inspire a crazy combo or meme deck, aka meme deck worthy. For those of you without much time, there's a time code in the description below for quick reviews. For everyone else, let's get into the detailed reviews. First up is possibly Warrior's most effective enabler of the Taunt Warrior archetype, Frightened Flunky. He's a 2-mana 2/2 with a battle cry that lets him discover a taunt minion, including possibly another copy of himself. As class cards have a higher chance of appearing as options for discover cards, there's a good chance Frightened Flunky discovers Armadillo or himself, both of which can provide huge value for the deck. While the health on this Flunky isn't very high, he comes down a turn earlier than Stonehill Defender, which saw tons of play while in Standard. Neither Bomb or Control Warrior could use this card as they are at the moment, so he's not meta now. However, with some tweaks to Control Warrior, the support coming in for Taunt Warrior, and its similarity to the always meta Stonehill Defender, it's very likely Frightened Flunky runs screaming into the new meta. As for meme decks, this definitely makes it into the Reborn Taunt Warrior we'll build, and the opportunity to fill the board with Frightened Flunkies might inspire some unusual play. So yes, meme deck worthy. Next up is the powerfully statted Generous Mummy, a 3-mana 5/4 with Reborn, and an effect that makes your opponent's cards cost 1 less. The stats for the mana cost are great, but the actual cost of playing this card is nearly ensuring your opponent will destroy you. It'll be super punishing result from Conjurer's Calling on a 3-mana minion or the new Warlock minion, Diseased Vulture. Perhaps a super control deck, confident in their ability to deal with anything their opponents could possibly play, would play this in an effort to get their opponent to overcommit resources? Probably not, but that's the only scenario other than Silence Priest I can imagine somebody actually including this in their deck intentionally. The drawback is so bad that there's no way this finds its way into a current or new meta deck, and just playing it in a deck will likely be sufficient to brand the deck as a meme deck. But the Generous Mummy is not the only overstated card with a pretty painful drawback. Sunstruck Henchman is a 6/5 for 4 that has a 50% chance to fall asleep at the start of your turn. Falling asleep means it basically acts like a minion on the board the turn it's played. The drawback is not nearly as self-sabotaging as the previous card, but it's still very unreliable. With a minion able to turn adjacent minions into taunts or silence this, Sunstruck Henchman might see some play. That being said, none of the current meta decks would want to run this, and there are so many better options that I would be amazed if this is able to make its way into the new meta. But we may be able to make a Defender of Argus, Sun Fury Protector, Silence Priest actually able to use this somewhat reliably. And who knows, maybe the Force, RNG, will be with whoever plays this to give some decent highlights? Quest Rogue returns in a somewhat weaker form for Warlocks. Darkfare Otakon is a 5-mana 4/4 with a battle cry that makes your lackeys for the rest of the game into 4/4s. It's a lot easier to complete than the Rogue quest, but less reliable as this is a 1 in 30 card from your deck. Only lackeys are affected, but they are already powerful as 1-mana 1/1s, so +3/+3 to them is too juicy to pass up, if enough lackeys can be generated. The current builds of Meta Zoo Warlock run 2 copies of Evil Genius. If something could be swapped out for the Evil Cable Rat, and this slotted end, the synergy with Magic Carpet would nearly guarantee Takon's inclusion. The mana curve would raise a bit, making it a bit questionable, but the added pressure would likely prove to be worth it most of the time. And with more lackey generation being added into the game, I'm certain Takon will find a home in some form of Warlock in the upcoming meta. But is he meme-worthy? There isn't really anything unusual or exciting to do with Takon other than his normal effect. And playing a Lackey-heavy deck doesn't merit meme status, so he doesn't make it into the meme deck-worthy category. And if Warlock wasn't looking strong enough yet, they also get a powerful board clear in the form of Plague of Flames, a 1-mana spell which destroys all their minions, destroying a random enemy minion for each one. Rafam's Scheme and Fiendish Circle might actually see some play paired with this, which means we may actually get to see Darkest Hour in Standard as well? Maybe? Zoo Warlock is typically able to overwhelm their opponent with minions, and sacrificing their entire board seems unlikely. It would be surprising to see them sacrifice a valuable slot to put this in, unless there were some decks with really big minions getting in their way that they can't deal with otherwise. So not meta now. However, paired with Rafam's Scheme or Fiendish Circle, I could see a Control Warlock archetype revival with this. It's not certain, but I'd give this a fair chance to become meta later. And yes, perhaps paired with the new Warlock quest, a Darkest Hour, Rafam's Scheme, Fiendish Circle, massive minions deck could use this to help clear a board when needed, so we can flood the board with our own huge threats. The Darkest Hour shall return. So how valuable are lackeys after all? Would it be worth running this poorly statted weapon to generate a few extra? Livewire Lance is a 3-mana 2/2 weapon for warriors, which adds a lackey to your hand after your hero attacks. Perhaps this is supposed to entice us to play the new warrior quest? Well, the Lackey pool will be getting this new Titanic Lackey, a 1-mana 1/1 with a battlecry that gives a friendly minion +2 health and taunt. This looks to be one of the weaker lackeys, but lackeys are powerful enough that a deck may consider running this lance with some weapon buffs. But Quest Warrior still won't be a thing. Unfortunately, this does not provide the value that a Control or Bomb Warrior is looking for, so it would not be meta now. And while lackeys are great, it seems like Warrior just has so many other powerful tools to work with at the moment that this won't make the cut in the new meta either. But in a meme Quest Warrior with improved morale and Gramash Hellscream, perhaps this makes the cut? And yeah, sure, the new Quest Warrior deck also is probably going to be meme status, so we'll go ahead and give it meme-worthy status. Arcane Tyrant makes a comeback for Druid in the form of Anubisath Defender, a 5-mana 3/5 with Taunt that costs 0 if you've cast a spell that cost 5 or more this turn. Arcane Tyrant was a 5-mana 4/4 elemental with the same effect, but no Taunt. And it saw copious amounts of play, especially in Druid due to the synergy with Ultimate Infestation. Paired with the next card we'll cover, it seems Blizzard may be trying to create a similar synergy for this expansion as well. The current meta Druid deck, Token Druid, does use the Forest Aid, which could enable this card, but without multiple bodies or buff mechanics, this probably doesn't fit into Token Druid. However, considering the popularity of Arcane Tyrant in the past, and the taunt tag on this, I think there's a very high probability that this Jackal will be finding a home in the new meta. If this were a Choose One card, it would fit pretty nicely into our all Choose One synergy deck, as there are a number of cards that are 5 mana or more. However, this isn't, and it doesn't seem to enable or inspire a meme deck, so it doesn't get meme deck worthy status. And to enable Anubisath Defender, Druid also gets Overflow, a 7-mana spell which reads, Restore 5 health to all characters. Draw 5 cards. This is not your home, invader. Lucent Bark finally gets the support he needed? The Draw 5 card reminds me of Ultimate Infestation, a 10-mana spell which dealt 5 damage, drew 5 cards, gained 5 armor, and summoned a 5/5 ghoul. At 3 less mana, this doesn't do any damage, nor does it get a minion, and it potentially heals your opponent, and doesn't help you if you and your minions are in excellent health. However, it could heal you and multiple minions of yours. At the same cost as Sprint, it draws an extra card and has a debatable upside included. It's a bit difficult to assess at the moment, but if Druid is looking to draw through their deck quickly, this will definitely be something to consider. Would this go into current token druids? That's a difficult question. One of their weaknesses is card draw, and healing their minions to stick around for extra buffs would be nice. But this is an expensive card, and healing their opponent directly conflicts with their game plan of beating their opponent down. I don't think it would make it into Token Druid at the moment. Will this be meta later? Can Lucent Bark reach meta status? If not, is there a combo druid which can make this meta status? With Dream Petal Florist still around, there may be a decently powerful combo deck this could help, but I don't quite see it yet. I may be wrong about this one, but this doesn't quite make meta status later in my mind. Assuming that Lucent Bark will still be a meme deck, this can go a long way in that deck to draw him and support cards, or provide an awakening heal for him. And there may be other meme archetypes that this will enable, so it gets meme deck worthy status. Paladin finally gets a reborn minion to support their new quest, the Micro Mummy. It's a 2-mana 1/2 mech with reborn, and an end of turn effect, which gives another random friendly minion +1 attack. Reborn and mech on this little guy? Not bad. Holy Wrath Paladin wouldn't run this, but what about Mech Paladin? He's resilient with Reborn, increasing the likelihood of having a magnetic target the following turn. But there's a lot of potential for him to weaken the resurrection pool for Kangor's Endless Army as well. I think the benefit of having a more reliable magnetic target would outweigh the drawback to the resurrection pool, so Mech Paladin probably would include this. With my undying hope for Sir Finley Murgleton's quest and the mech tag on this little mummified micro mech, I think he wobbles quite confidently into the new meta. In an earlier review, we talked about making a meme deck to see how big we could make the new Brazen Zealot, and if we could get her over a 30 attack. This would fit nicely into a deck doing that, and make it work with a few other meme deck archetypes. It joins the meme deck enabler ranks. And to begin the inevitable flow of pack filler cards, we get the 2-mana 2/2 demon with lifesteal, Vile Fiend. Most competitive 2-drops have a 2/3 or 3/2 stat line plus an effect, so this seems a bit weak. Perhaps a deck which can utilize the demon synergy with lifesteal will develop, but there isn't anything standing out at the moment. No current meta decks would really want this guy, and it seems unlikely he will earn a spot in the new meta. Perhaps a Portal Keeper, Portal Overfiend, Ectomancy deck could run this, but it doesn't inspire or enable anything unusual, so it doesn't make it to meme status either. Hunter gets a new weapon, the 3-mana 1/3 Desert Spear, which summons a 1/1 Locust with Rush. In case you're wondering what Locusts look like, here's one. With the same stat line as Candleshot, this summons a 1/1 Beast with Rush instead of granting immunity. Candleshot was extremely effective at removal with Hunter's Mark, so much so that Hunter's Mark got nerfed. While this does not grant immunity, the Beast with Rush synergy could prove to be quite nice, especially as this allows you to pay in advance for a rushing minion as long as your opponent does not have weapon removal. This doesn't make it into Mech, Secret, or Death Rattle Hunter, but what about Midrange Hunter? They currently run Headhunter's Hatchet, which goes from a 2/2 to a 2/3 if you control a beast. This would lose 1 attack from the weapon, but potentially gain the same attack back each time, potentially allowing the damage to be split. While the rush minion cannot go face, it could stick around for even more value. This could very well replace the Headhunter's Hatchet in the current mid-range hunters. And with the extra rush minion synergy option this provides, I think there's a very good chance this thrusts its way into the new meta as well. The swarm of locusts descends. But really, does this enable or inspire a fun combo or bizarre deck? Other than the age-old, how big can we make scavenging hyena? Not really. I can't give this weapon meme status. Now for the Super Stall card. The neutral minion Conjured Mirage is a 4-mana 3/10 taunt with an unusual effect. At the start of your turn, shuffle this minion into your deck. This will work great to slow down hyper-aggressive decks, but paying 4 mana for a minion that can't stick around seems questionable. It might help a little bit with fatigue as well, but not much. The stats are premium, and if hyper-aggro becomes a problem, this may see play as a tech card, but I don't see it being used too much. This doesn't fit into the game plan of any current meta decks, and it's only likely to make it into the new meta as a tech card against hyper-aggro. So I would be surprised if it earns a consistent slot in the new meta either. Silence Priest may be able to use this to set up a pretty effective 2-turn lethal, and maybe a bizarre form of anti-fatigue control deck with augmented Elix could be made to utilize this as a frustrating stall overwhelm deck. There are some interesting possibilities with this card, and so we will go ahead and say it fits within the meme deck category. A 4-mana 2/5 Taunt isn't particularly exciting, but a 4-mana 4/6 Taunt isn't bad. As a 4-mana 2/5 Taunt with Reborn, Bone Wraith mixes the stats up a bit and serves as a sticky roadblock for its opponent. Looking through the current meta deck lists, it doesn't look like any of them would really want to use this at the moment. That being said, this might be a nice inclusion in the new Taunt Warrior archetype coming up. If buffed, this is a pretty formidable taunt. It might serve as a useful roadblock and duplication target for Quest Paladin as well. So we'll say there's a decent chance it makes it into the new meta. This reborn Taunt Warrior we've been talking about this whole time would love this guy, as he has both keywords. He definitely makes the cut for a meme deck. Self-Sabotage has hit a new level with this 5-mana 8/8 mech, the Mortuary Machine. Following in the footsteps of Bittertide Hydra, an 8/8 for 5, which damaged you for 3 anytime it took damage, the drawback on this card is notably worse. You have no control over what your opponent will play, so they could just get a few small minions, which all get reborn, or a decent-sized minion with reborn. Sometimes you may be able to get the extra damage from these increased stats through before the dead come back to haunt you, but it seems pretty likely this will be punishing the user more than helping. Conjurer's Calling has a punish available at 5 mana as well, it seems. Initially, I thought no current meta deck would want to run this, but the single tier 3 priest deck, Mech Priest, does run Silence. They might consider running this paired with Silence as a big base to build a combo on, as well as just a decent pressure source. It just barely makes the cut as a meta card now. However, it would be surprising if this deck or any other in the new meta will be able to survive using this consistently. But, as noted with other drawback cards, this may be able to find a home in Silence Priest, and its mech tab is appealing, so there is some real potential for a modified mech Silence Priest to pull off some shenanigans. Okay, that's all the cards. Now for the quick reviews. Frightened Flunky is not meta now, but certainly meta later, and is meme deck worthy. Generous Mummy is not meta now, nor meta later, and earns meme deck status just being played. Sunstruck Henchman is not as self-destructive, but is definitely not meta now, nor meta later, and is meme deck worthy. Darkfare Otakon is rogue nerf worthy levels of meta now and meta later, but doesn't earn meme status. Plague of Flames doesn't get meta now, but possibly meta later, and is a meme deck enabler. Livewire Lance is not meta now, nor meta later, but we'll give it meme worthy status. Anubisath Defender is not meta now, likely meta later, but not meme deck worthy. Overflow is not meta now, just barely not meta later, but enables some memes. Micro Mummy wobbles successfully through each category, whereas Vile Fiend falls flat in each category. Desert Spear is meta now, meta later, but doesn't inspire the memes. Conjured Mirage cannot be seen in the current meta or meta later, but might make an appearance in some meme decks. Bone Wraith is not meta now, can probably join the new meta, and does join a meme deck. Mortuary Machine surprisingly makes meta now, but not meta later, and sets up for some deadly memes. And that's a wrap. Of course, this is a subjective review, but I'm making some pretty direct predictions. Let me know in the comments below if you think I missed something, you agree or disagree with something I said. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep exploring. Weapons, callback cards, and self-destructive minions are venturing forth into Uldum, and today we get to review them. Here's up for an adventure.